At Relentless Digital, we believe in breaking barriers and driving innovation. That's why we are extremely proud to sponsor the Power Women of the Trades podcast, supporting the voices and success of women in the home service industry. Together, we're creating a future where talent shines regardless of gender and diversity thrives. Join our journey at relentless-digital.com and always be relentless in your pursuit of excellence.
This episode of Power Women of the Trades is also brought to you by Forrest Perry of Forrest Perry Digital Marketing. Want to generate more leads for your service business? Trust his team to deliver quality new customer leads and protect your brand online. Check out perrymarketing.com today.
Hello everyone. We want to give a quick shout out to our amazing partner, Rilla, the game changer in the home service industry. Rilla's virtual ride-along software means no more physical ride-alongs. With Rilla, you can code your team virtually 100 times faster and boost your close sale rates like never before. Don't miss out. Join the movement today and watch your sales soar. Visit rilla.com/PWT to learn more.
Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Power Women of the Trades with Cassie and Heather. Today we are with Amanda Mahaffey from Tuck and Howell in South Carolina.
Yep, Greenville, South Carolina.
Awesome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I've been seeing you everywhere. So tell us the scoop. Tell us the story. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so I come from accounting. I've been in accounting since I was 18. I did 21 Jersey Mike's books and then went back and finished my degree because I stopped when I got pregnant with my boys. My husband and I have been together for 18 years. And so, accounting is my background. Sales and HVAC is Jay's background. Jay's goal was 4 million in sales. And he said, once I hit 4 million in sales that, I'm ready to start my own business. So he hit that. And I don't know who gave him Dan Antonelli's book From Kick Charge, but he read that book. He said, I feel like I'm finally ready. Like, I know, like, we can do this. We developed a business plan, went through and just we've always gone to Linux and Carrier, primarily Linux conventions. So we kind of had started networking through that for many, many years and, heard of ServiceTitan and heard of all the trending things that businesses, successful businesses are doing. So I really started looking into them. We wrote a business plan and we were ready to start our own company. We reached out to Dan Antonelli. It was Alan Crick that gave him Alan Crick.
Yeah, Alan.
Out of Florida.
Oh, I like Alan.
Yeah, they're great. They're good people. He gave the book told him about Dan. Anyway, so his uncle owned Tuck and Howell and Jay always took his uncle to lunch and he said, hey, I'm ready to start my own company, was, telling him everything we were getting ready to do. And he said, well, Jay, I thought you were going to buy my company. And Jay's like, well, hell, Jerry, I've been trying to buy your company for 5 years. He was in his 80s, still running this place. Oh, wow. So they started in 1969. Long story short, we ended up striking a deal with him and here we are. We came in January 2023 and it was running off of pen and paper. And then
in 2023?
Yeah. I talked to Jay a lot back then. I remember he would always message me like, how'd you do this? What'd you do this? How'd you do this? Or whatever. And I've just always been like, I'm willing to share. Are you guys in next door?
No.
Oh, you're not? Okay. That's fine. That's not a requirement for the show. We are, but I always bring it up. I can't remember because I think I thought I had talked to him about that at one point. But anyways, that's awesome. But the company's been around since
1969.
1969. And so you guys just took over in 2023. And did you rebrand?
On a list of, and so it's really cool because I save all of our stuff where I wrote all the old financials where I was like this before we even came in here, where I was just noting what we should do. And so that's how we developed our business plan. And Rebrand, ServiceTitan were at the top two of our list of our business plan. And so we came in and we pulled it all on August 1st. We rebranded, changed accounting softwares to QuickBooks. books went live in ServiceTitan August 1st. I'm like, what the hell were we thinking?
Right in the middle of summer.
Yeah. I did plumbing that day too.
I literally believe that doing things like that, rip the Band-Aid off, is the way to do it. Heather does not always believe that.
No, but I trust Cassie. Cassie likes to go 100 miles an hour with her hair on fire. And I'm always like pumping the brakes a little bit.
That's Jay. That is 100%. And I'm 100 miles an hour too, but I'm also like, okay, well, let's think through this first.
Okay. So that's what I wanted, because we started to kind of talk about this pre-show and I was like, nope, hang on, because I think that is a good dynamic. So, and a good segue of what I was kind of talking about. So I go 100 miles an hour. I can wake up in the middle of the night and have thought about something and put a note in my notes and then have a plan for it by noon. And then Heather will be like, bruh, or Oscar, he doesn't go 100 miles an hour either. And so like sometimes too, let me like side note, I need to give my husband a plug because I am a mouthy woman, you know, it is what it is. I have a lot of things to say. A lot of people think that I wear all the pants and make all the decisions. Oscar is very present and very involved. He just doesn't run the social media scene, right? And so, but he is a little more cautious or wants to be a little more reserved, maybe sometimes a little more like Heather, and where I'm going 100 miles an hour and I'm like, nope, guys, like, come on. And then, you know, we make the decision. But I think some of that is her accounting training. And I think that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. And like you said, your current controller is a little more reserved and you're like, welcome to the trades. And I'm like,
whoa, I am not new to the trades and I am not reserved, but I am hesitant sometimes because I want to wrap my head around new ideas and make sure that we implement them appropriately, because the last thing I want to do.
Yes, it all falls into accounting. No, and Heather, I'm not saying you're like new. She's absolutely not new to the trades. She's just more level-headed and I'm a batshit crazy. Okay?
But that's why we work well together, because she has an idea and I'm like, okay, let's make sure that this is going to pencil out the way that you're seeing it in your head, because if we don't implement this correctly, it's, you know, we don't want to crash and burn. And I want to make sure that I'm at all times protecting the financial stability of the company, because we are massively growing right now. And, you know, one or two wrong moves can really, sideline the show that you're trying to, move everything forward. And we've had a lot of changes at Quality because of the growth, especially this year. And it's been fun and it's been stressful and it's been good. But I think, Cassie's always like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm like, hold on. Like,
but Amanda, you had said, like Jay's like that too. And you're a little more like the accounting piece of it. That's not a bad thing, but that's more like, guys, you're probably like the same of Heather of like, okay, you can do this. You're making the decision, but take 2 steps to like breathe a little bit. But I will tell you that that's a lot for us of like the quick. So with your accounting experience previous to Tuck and Howell, how do you think that's helped you?
Oh, it's helped
as
us
a new owner.
It's helped us tremendously, because when we came in, the company was at a negative 11% net income. So when I was excited. Jay's like, we're buying my uncle's company. He's been around since 1969. His uncle lives a very nice lifestyle, very successful in everything he's done. And so I'm thinking we're walking into this beautiful company that has, that's thriving. Now, granted, it might have been a little dated, but I was like, let's see the financials. I'm excited. I'm going to have my own set of financials. I was excited as an accountant. You can kind of share that with me.
100%. Yep.
Other people's financials my whole life, and to have my own set of financials that every decision is mine was just really cool. I was like, let's sit down, look at the financials. And I was like, holy shit, we are not buying this company. I said, Jay, what in the hell are you thinking? And so I was like, this is a terrible idea. And he's like, nope, we're going to buy it. And I was like, oh my God. I think for the first 6 months, I had literally like the wake up nightmares, like worried we weren't going to cover payroll. But having the financial background helped us tremendously, because what I did, I was like, okay, game face on, sit down, identify. We had like $30,000 of unapplied labor a month. What the hell is unapplied labor? $30,000 a month. So we pulled 3 sheet metal guys that were just building sheet metal in the sheet metal shop for no jobs immediately. Because I just said, okay, identify all the cash items, because obviously a failing business is losing cash. And so I think my brain on that part allowed us to plug all the holes that were bleeding quickly and say, okay. And then Jay's sales brain, he was like, we got to start making money. So I was in interim plugging all the holes on the financial statements as he was producing. He was going out and starting to sell, because they were
I can relate to that. I can totally relate to that.
Sometimes we hold back on it. Everything that we share at Quality, not hold back, but I think Heather holds back of what she'll share, but I will share this piece of that. As an owner so we're in our 11th year, essentially, right? And Heather's been with us about a year. You're coming up, it'll be a year in September, right? So 9 months, right? And up until Heather, so for for 10 years, we just used an external CPA, which obviously we still have. And we had an in-house like bookkeeper, but then everything else was the shit I learned on Facebook in these groups from these gurus that didn't know anything. Or when I called Heather for help, or what our Next Star coach had taught us, which was not wrong, but like, I'm not an accounting person. I am also not a doer, like a tasker. Okay. So, and I know that about myself. I say all the time, I am the visionary. I can become the visionary. But I'm not going to be the implementer.
Yeah, I'm the implementer.
I am the implementer.
Because I can't, it's my ADHD, y'all. I can't do it. I'll sit down and be like, so anyways, what's for lunch? You know, because my brain is moving too fast. So I can't keep it there. One time I said this and someone said, you should let other people be visionaries in your company. I'm like, bitch, they are. I'm like, bitch, we got that. Okay. I'm not saying everything has to be Cassie's idea, but what I'm saying is we've identified, Heather knows me very well, that I am not going to sit down with her and go through, she's going to give me the financials, but I'm not going to be like in this, like I'm going to get lost. Not that I can't do it, though I can't physically do that. So where I was wrong for 10 years was that I was supposed to be doing that, right? Or identifying, looking deeper into things because I couldn't. And then, but people would say, you need a CFO, you need this, you need this. And I'm like, we can't afford that. We can't do this. Girl, you can't afford to not have a CFO.
That's a big thing to note. I think a lot of people think they can't afford it or don't want to afford it because we're not revenue producers. But I can tell you, Cassie and I have been friends a very long time. When I came on board at Quality, I loved going in, being able to break down everything and just basically give Cassie the highlight points and to, like you said, Amanda, plug all the holes. You know, there were some holes and things that needed to change, and being able to identify that and share it with Cassie and Oscar and the entire executive management team has helped us grow and become more profitable. And that's the whole goal.
And that's like our growth. We are going to end up growing this year like 10% higher than we budgeted for, simply because Heather's got our shit together on some things. And we've caught things that, you know, we all use ServiceTitan, and hey, I love ServiceTitan. Okay. But you know, it depends which report you look at, which fact is right. And
100%.
They're actually both right. It just depends what it's pulling. Right. And so I looked at was this, and now what she's looking at, and she could catch and tell us from, and then as much as I want her in the building and wish she was here, having her outside of the building.
Too much.
No, it helps us tremendously having her outside the building.
But there's so many distractions.
Well, yeah, she can look at things from just a business and be like, hey, like she's involved in all the chats, but she's like, y'all are losing focus. Or, you know, right.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, there are days where I have to work at home just for the fact of like, I just need to step back and not be in the mix of the hustle and bustle, because it's very difficult for me to get anything done in the office, because I feel like and that's what we're working on is the SOPs to, because there are days where we're firefighting. And I think that was kind of what we were talking about before. Like, is this every point of revenue, you know, they say, don't be a firefighter, you know, make sure you're putting in processes to where you're not fighting fires. But do you ever get to a point where you have no fires?
Yes. I mean, there are periods where there aren't fires, but when you are experiencing massive and rapid growth, it is so key to make sure that you have the right people in the right spots, because if you don't know your team and know the decisions that they're going to make, because as the owner, you cannot make all the decisions at the size that we're at. Cassie and Oscar cannot make all the decisions. They've put people in place, myself and other executive directors. She and Oscar count on us to put out those fires or like mitigate some of this stuff as we grow. And it's so key to make sure those people are trustworthy. They're going to decide, you know, if they have a decision to make, they're going to make the decision that we know Oscar and Cassie would make.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like, okay, yes, you get to a point that you can't, because we talk a lot about being a fire preventer and not a firefighter. Okay. And yes, that's a good goal. Okay. Right. But when you're in rapid growth and your day-to-day changes and every house that you go to is a different house, we train 5 days a week in this building, and we cannot train for the scenarios that we come up against. Yeah. Legitimately had someone assault an employee, a manager in a house this week, and had to file a police report. I could have never built a process for that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so I kind of feel as if some of the shittiest leadership advice I've ever gotten is kind of what you're saying of like, well, I'm sucking right now. You are mentally, like you are trained to say, I suck right now because there's all these fires and this isn't good and we can't grow and blah, 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 blah. Like that's in us because we've seen the TikTok videos and we've seen the stuff and you have to lead and nobody has fires. Bullshit. They're all putting fires out all day long every day.
I told Jay last night, I was, laying in bed at 2:00 in the morning awake because I'm thinking of processes. And I told Jay, I said, I mean, there's no way that companies, because we've experienced we did 4.3 to 7.4 to 11.2. We'll do 13.3 this year. And, we're looking to scale. We would like to do 18 next year, but I told Jess, we've got to make sure we have our processes in place. But I told him, I said, it's unrealistic to expect every day to go just smooth sailing. I said, we're not in an accounting office, but we have a new controller, and I worked with him for 3 years prior to this in an accounting office. And it's very quiet, calm, surrounded by CPAs, she was very, very much different atmosphere. And so he came on board with us about 2 months ago, and I was very excited to get him. He's very analytical, very process driven. And so I think he's going to really help us get to our next revenue point, but it's new for him, all the hustle and bustle being in this office.
And you got don't let his processing slow you down either, because sometimes, yes, you have to build the process, but sometimes you're building the process while you're building the process, and erroring.
And it's going to change, because what worked at 5 million isn't going to work at 10. And what worked at 10 isn't going to work at 15. And so having those processes in place, is key, and being able to change them as you grow is just as important. And the more that we have the processes in place that we can control, will allow for the fires that we can't control, like those customers. The one customer that assaulted one of our managers, we had another lady who had raccoons in her attic and wanted to leave it that way.
I wanted to leave them there. They were the raccoon was taking. Raccoons have thumbs, guys. I don't know if you know.
We almost got a pet raccoon.
Oh my God. No way. Listen, we have raccoon trauma at this place now, but raccoons have thumbs. So they can undo things, they can open doors.
Yeah.
And this raccoon we were putting the ductwork in and taping it and trying to seal it, and it was untaping it. It was very friendly.
Oh, that is so funny. I kind of love that.
And then she wanted it to stay. And then we were offering to fix the hole in the side of her house because the raccoons were coming in, and it was going to affect her air and everything. And she did not want them because they were welcome.
But you can't make this stuff up.
We had prepared for that. We had to rip the heat and air out of this woman's house because
raccoons could stay.
She couldn't understand why we couldn't finish the install because the raccoons wouldn't let us. We have made a process for that. And it sounds like that's impossible. And so that would have never happened. It sounds like we made that up. And Heather, that's the God's honest truth. Heather, witnessed that, right? And so, but I think what happens is that there's so many times I would say, who gave me the keys to this building? Who said I could run this place? And we have these identity crises of can we do this? But everyone on social media is doing it better, and everyone's doing this, and they don't have these issues. It's just us. And that is bullshit. It really is bullshit. Yep. And so I feel like I'm kind of passionate today. Dang, my coffee must have been strong.
I mean, it's the imposter syndrome that we were talking about a few weeks ago. Is, we do question, because everybody puts their best foot forward on social media. So you question hey, nobody else is having this problem. And if you aren't having some of the problems that we all have experienced, you're lying.
Yeah. And you got to just give yourself some grace. Amanda, we're all staying up at night, and we're all waking up, and we don't have a making payroll issue, but I'll still wake up wondering what would happen if we didn't make payroll. There's things that you just we're going to overthink, but that's because we've been entrusted with these people's lives. I think sometimes we have to, that was, one thing. We're up to I don't know how many employees now, but we're accountable for a lot of people's lives.
Almost 100 people.
When
you have the responsibility to make sure that the decisions you make for the company are not only benefiting the company, but you've got 100 families are directly affected.
Yeah, which has also been new. And we're open with our employees. We have a really, really good team. But it took us time to get here, and we fired a lot of people to do this, to get here. And some people left because the changes that we were making are so vastly different than what Tuck and Howell was before. So I understand, change is hard, but we have a really, really good team, and we're really open. And, we told them guys, we were employees before this, and we're doing our very best to make the best decisions because we are responsible for 63 people.
Right.
And give us grace, because something might not work, then we're going to pivot. And we were really open to feedback. And we actually did our first employee survey, and I was like, woo-wee, Are we ready to read these? But they were good. And I think a lot of the feedback was that we're approachable, which is good. But Jay's really, really tough. And they know, like Jay's really nice guy, but Jay's really tough as far as like he won't put up with it. And the whole concept fire fast, hire slow, that's Jay. And he sounds a lot like you, Cassie, as far as like moving quick. And I think having my financial background and being able to plug the holes and look at the financial statements and be like, oh, why is this high? Let's make this change. And then we can literally see it on the P&L change, which is really freaking cool. And my husband's obsessed with it now. But Jay's drive and action, I mean, this man is an action taker, and his ability to fire people that don't need to be here, I think is a key part of why
that is something too that like no one talks about during the growth is who you started with won't stay with you.
Yep.
And you wanted them to though. And that's the thing of like, it's that quote of like, I would have walked fire I would have done anything to bring them with me. They would have done anything to stay. Right. And so like for us, when we were smaller in the beginning, like I remember that core group, and you can go back and think about that group that whenever you guys took ownership, right. And the people that work there. And Heather talks about like the people when at Sky and positions that they had to eliminate that had been there, people that had been there for a long time or whatever.
30 years.
And
It's had an install manager that we had to let go of after he had been 30 years with the company. And we held on to him for 3 years too long. And he's a great guy. It's just, he had maxed out his potential.
Yeah.
And it was just time for us to make a change. But I mean, replacing somebody that's got that much tenure, it hurts your heart because you don't want to do that.
Or the people, like we recently have had some shifts in our company again. And it's just like, I can't make you want this, right? And I can't make you want this the way that it has to be done. And it's okay that you want less,
That's exactly right. And that just means we need to make a change. And
we're prepping you, Amanda, that like the more processes that you put into place, some of those core people that you've been with for a while will not go with.
Yeah.
And you have to have your heart ready for it because it was hard.
I'm okay now. I've developed it after these last 2 years. I'm like, whoa, I'm not a different person, but I'm able to be like, okay, this is for the best of the company and just feel good and lean into that because it used to make me feel terrible. And I was like, oh, Jay, I love them so much. Like some of the people that we've let go, I personally liked a lot as a person, but it just wasn't a good fit anymore.
Yeah.
And so we're like, making that change was very difficult and it broke my heart, but I'm a lot better at being like, moving forward with it. I'm like, I hate it. I really do. But it is for the best of the company. And so because we do have the responsibility of 63 people. And if we don't make those hard changes, guess what? We aren't going to have any people because we won't be able to pay the bills because those changes allow us to be profitable, have money in the bank. And so I'm really leaning into the 7-power contractor, Al Levy. We've got our org chart and develop processes and hiring right. We're really leaning on, that's something that we're leaning on, making sure that we're making good hires so we don't have to fire.
And make sure that the processes that you're building are scalable.
Yep.
Because, that's some things that we still identify of like, that was a process for like 3 people, not for this many,
What was one of the hardest struggles that you had when you took over the company as you were starting to build and grow the business as the owner? What were some of the biggest struggles that you had in that transition?
I think some of the biggest struggles were we had a business plan, but we didn't have the experience of running a successful company ever. We were an employee. Jay was heavily involved in kind of running the company that he previously sold at. When I worked for Jersey Mike's, I was heavily involved in opening new stores and kind of seeing that process. So my family owns all their own business. So I've always come from a background of business oriented and I love it. I'm obsessed with seeing how businesses work. Jay enjoys that aspect too, but we had never previously done it. So we didn't have a track record to where we could come into a company, these young kids coming in. That's what we essentially came in because we were the youngest here because the whole staff was, an older staff that had been with the company for, 20 and 30 years. The tenure was significant here. And so, we came in not, how do they know what the hell they're doing concept. And we had this big grand business plan and we changed everything. So I think coming in without a quote unquote track record and for people to kind of believe that we were going to be able to do it was difficult because, everybody doubted us and that was difficult but as far as implementing implementation wise, probably ServiceTitan implementation, going from pen and paper and taking 34 people to iPads that were used to pen and paper that had been here for 28 and 30 years. They were pissed.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, they were pissed. And so, that was a difficult time period. And Jay says, he said, I vividly remember one day, because I must have been out of the office. I don't remember, but it was, I think he said 10 days or 2 weeks into going live in ServiceTitan. He said he just remembers like sitting on his desk with his head down and his hands over his face. He said, I had 10 people lined up at my door and you weren't here, talking about me, because I was the one that knew. I'm the one that knows ServiceTitan the most.
Right.
I sat there. He said, I thought, what the hell have I done?
It's rough. And sometimes like those changes, I'm just like, guys, you have a phone in general, like you calm down. It's pretty easy, but like it's hard. A software change it was like hard.
Yeah. I think
implementing software in general.
Yeah. I think because they came from like pen and papers, and a lot of them weren't computer savvy at all. And so it was difficult, but it was well worth it. I mean, it has paid dividends just because, like I said, I like data, I like numbers. So I am able to dig in and be like, oh, like you're able to identify holes in your game. And so I think that's been my favorite part of, even though the implementation was freaking hard and I was staying up till like 3 a.m. on a regular, and we literally told our kids like, hey, mom and dad are going to be busy for the next,
wild
year. Yeah. And we had Uber Eats. I mean, I wasn't cleaning, I wasn't cooking, I wasn't wifing, I wasn't doing anything but working until like 3 a.m. on a regular. So it was a difficult phase in our life, but it was well worth it. But we had to, in order to turn the company around, because we didn't have data to make decisions on.
Right. You had to. And those are the stories that I think are so important to tell, because I think that people like just look at it and are just like, $3 to $14 million. And it was so easy. And they're like, well, nobody said that.
No.
I always say, like, if you want to try this, like, let me know how it goes, because most days I don't recommend, like I do, but it's like, it's literally, you have to be mentally prepared.
It's a journey.
Yes, it's a journey. And it's not, I think that we just in general, people are like, oh, they're a business owner and that life is so easy for them. And it's just like, you have no clue of sacrifice.
Well, and doing a software transition to ServiceTitan is very difficult. I mean, we've all been through it, and I've been to several different companies that I've helped do that transition. But I think if you get on ServiceTitan early enough, it's easier as you grow.
Yes. Yep.
I could not imagine bringing ServiceTitan on with 63 employees like you have, or, we're almost at 100 at Quality, and trying to make that switch and get 15 or 20 people to do it and then just make it the norm is a lot easier, I think, than trying to say, okay, we're going to go to ServiceTitan with 100 employees or 60 employees. Then you've got, like the guys that you said are not computer savvy and they don't want to do it. And, you're going to get pushback from them. I mean, how big were you at Cassie? How big was Quality when you switched to ServiceTitan from House Call Pro?
Like 3 million.
Yeah. So it was a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, it was easy. And then
we were just at 4.3, so not much more.
Yeah. And it's rough. Like to just like ServiceTitan's so robust, like still to this day, like there's so much. I feel like I'm in like a lifelong commitment with them forever. ServiceTitan, right? But there's so much that, to control, but it's rough. Like it can be. And there's just so many pieces of like, you don't know what you're getting into till you get in, not on ServiceTitan, but just in this whole gig, right? You don't know what we're getting into till we get into it.
Yeah. I think that Jay and I always have been, not the wild child of the family, but kind of the wild child of the family. And so as Jay, we just come from, like, we just jump and figure it out. Like, we're not scared. We grow up. My favorite saying, even when I was growing up, is you jump and grow your wings on the way down. And my parents were always like, oh my God, this girl, I'm sure I've given them most of their gray hairs. And I think that it requires a personality trait where you do take big jumps and you aren't afraid. And it doesn't mean that I'm not afraid or worried, but we're like, all right, let's do it. Here we go. And just like figure it out. And so we're both very much like that, which I think a lot of business owners carry that trait, because if you're a person that has to think through everything and has to know it all and have it planned out, you won't ever run a successful business, because you have to take leaps of faith.
Right. You have to let your gut take you sometimes too. There's a fly in front of me and it's driving me crazy. Funny.
I would have to agree with that a lot, because I am not the visionary person. I'm the implementer. implementer. I am very good at taking somebody's idea and implementing it. I'm not great with coming up with the idea. And I love that about Cassie. And sometimes it makes me a little crazy because I'm like, calm down. But I mean, she's always coming up with like the newest, latest, greatest idea that we're going to implement. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm totally fine being that person that's going to figure out how to implement it. And I'm grateful for her vision and Oscar's vision of what they want to do, because that's just not my strong suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jay's very much the visionary between the two of us, 100%.
Yeah. It's really important. People are like, well, how do you stay married in this? It's like, you have to find your dynamic.
Yeah.
You have to find what works. You have to find out like what you're in charge of. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're both the same, too much of the same, it's not going to work. You're going to clash and like against each other, and it's a bad deal.
Yep.
So this is a big year for growth for you guys. It sounds like, and you've got some big plans for next year.
Yep.
What else is on the table? Are you outside of revenue, like hires or any other things coming?
So we recently just hired the controller, which I think is going to be huge for us. We've really been leaning into, so my word for the year, and I was like, hell, this is the word for every year, strategy, right? And I've felt like we've had strategy in every department but marketing. So we've really leaned into marketing and have kind of pivoted our marketing strategy to having specialists for each, like pay-per-click, SEO, LSA, Google My Business. And so I think that strategy that we've recently pivoted to is going to pay dividends. I've spoke to I have 3 people that I trust their opinion in this industry that have done very well, and they all were like, yes, having people that specialize in the marketing sectors we've done that for years, for about 3 years, Kaylee, right? And that's what we've done. So about 3 years ago, I made the decision and said, I will no longer hire one marketing company that represents everything. And so that's been really pivotal, but it's not cheap. Our agency fees are not cheap. I'm sure every month. First, I know Heather was like, you got all these agency fees. I'm like, we have a specialist, we have a different company for everything. And that was the route that we chose to do that. But it's because they can't all be great at everything. And so that's been a huge piece for us as well. Or that was a huge piece of getting us here, is just having those people that are great. And
adding Kaylee. Kaylee's been phenomenal, because before Cassie was handling all the marketing, and then she brought Kaylee on. And Kaylee is young and she's got great ideas and new ideas, and she's super technology savvy and great with social media and TikTok. And Kaylee's done some really fun things for quality.
Yeah. It's just like opening your mind, absolutely, and doing things against the grain and not following too closely to what the industry is doing. I think for a little bit that pigeonholed me a little bit, because I was like trying to do what the industry was doing, and I actually don't really care anymore what the industry, like we're doing what quality is doing, right? And what quality works for us, and that's fine if it doesn't work for everyone else, because that's what's got us here, and it's exciting to see when you do those things and you see them work for yourself.
Yeah, we're really excited. We kind of, like I said, I'm accounting and Jay's sales, and I think it worked for us for that first phase, and now we're like, okay, let's pivot and do something different. So we're excited to see the ROI on that. We're also, like I said, the controller, I'm super excited because I'm accounting brain. So he's like me times 10. So I think that he'll be huge with processes, because yes, I'm the implementer, but I also do have a lot of ADHD. And I joke like we're unmedicated ADHD and everybody knows it. But I think, we're just fast. You have to be, because there's so many moving parts. And so I'm kind of stepping out of being so involved in all the detail and everything, and just being like high level, like, okay, help me implement a process for this. And so I'm excited for that. It's been a game changer since I've been able to pull back a little bit from the accounting office, because I'm able to be like, okay, I can see all the pieces that work and then make sure that there's no loopholes in those. And then we're really leaning into our call center. We hired Angie Snow, love her, help us with our call center, because we can spend as much as we want in marketing, but if we're not converting it up front or identifying like, hey, why are we having these abandoned calls? Hey, so we just hired a call center supervisor as well.
Awesome. Those are really great changes. Well, it was so nice to talk to you and get to know everything that's going on over there. I got some rapid fire questions for you before we leave. Okay. What's your coffee order?
Matcha latte, iced matcha latte with oat milk.
How many do you have a day?
Depends on the day.
What's your dream vacation spot?
I want to go to Dubai.
Oh, wow.
Man, it's in our bucket. We probably will go next year.
Awesome. That's
we like to travel.
I love that question, because like I have a Facebook friend that's in Rome right now. And I was like, I don't think that would be like, I don't know. I just always think beaches. So I'm like, that's what I think, or whatever. So that's cool. All right. Last one. If you could meet any celebrity, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, I'm bad. I am bad with celebrities. A celebrity, dead or alive?
Industry, non-industry, they don't have to be famous.
Al Levy. I really want to meet him.
Cool.
Yeah, he's on my bucket list to make sure I meet at Pantheon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well,
he's great.
Well, we'll have to catch you. I think we're planning on going to Pantheon. I don't know. Everyone keeps asking us. I'm like, guys, we're trying to survive one day at a time right now. I'm not making big plans on things.
Yeah, our big thing is we're really trying to pull back on making sure we're not overcommitting ourselves. And my husband's really bad. I'm like, quit planning stuff. No more, because we got to have time to implement.
Yeah, 100%. I was really bad at overcommitting us and myself and my kids sacrifice had to do. And so I just pulled really back this year. And actually, we even canceled 2 conferences with the podcast. I just told Heather, I was like, I can't do it. I need to be with my kids. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves that the grind of this business can't take everything away from everything. And so,
100%.
But anyway, so hopefully we'll catch you at Pantheon. That's one of our favorites. So would love to meet you in person. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. It was nice meeting y'all.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.